Chapter 24. Towards the center of the train in one of the main passenger cars, the bandits asserted their dominion. A brutish figure's sneering face, partly obscured by a cracked mask, clutched a massive double-barreled shotgun.
"This is a robbery,"
he roared, his voice echoing through the mask.
"Get down, on the ground, everyone."
One of the female bandits drew a knife. Her brass goggles gleamed with a wicked glint as she moved. She pointed a red-hot knife at a man in a fine suit.
"Give it to me,"
she said, pointing to his pocket watch.
"The watch and the rings. Now."
The man fumbled with his pocket watch as her smile widened.
"Too slow,"
she sneered. She brought the knife down, severing a couple of his fingers in a flash of heat and pain. The man screamed as she snatched the jeweled rings from his bleeding fingers. She then tossed the severed fingers over her shoulder and grabbed the watch off the man as he remained hunched over in agony. He was a sniveling mess, holding his hand with the missing fingers. A nearby bandit tore a necklace from a woman's neck, yanking it off without bothering to unclip it.
"Shut up!"
he shouted as she screamed in terror.
"You'll live. The gems are worth more than your life anyway."
The bandit with the shotgun fired a thunderous blast into the ceiling, the sound rippling through the air like a physical shock wave. A terrified older passenger whimpered, still unmoving in his seat. The bandit turned his wrath upon an elderly man.
"You don't want to move, old man? Fine, I'll help you."
He grunted and fired. The shot nearly obliterated his chest, throwing his body against the wall like a rag doll. A fourth bandit smashed a metal butler automatron.
"Useless tin can,"
he muttered, reaching in to rip out the ether crystal that was its heart. The automatron's eyes faded into darkness.
"This will power my ZX cruiser,"
the bandit said with greed in his eyes. A second, smaller team of bandits had already breached the driver's section. They found the conductor, a grizzled veteran with a prosthetic arm, desperately trying to signal for help on a radio.
"Get out of the way, old man,"
the bandit leader said, her voice a low snarl. The conductor grimaced and gritted his teeth before he swung his mechanical arm at the female bandit, but she nimbly dodged with a smirk on her face. Her other companion, however, was not so graceful. The conductor's fist slammed into the second bandit with a heavy strike, and he crumpled. The third bandit fired his ether-powered rifle. The conductor's prosthetic arm deflected the shot, and a shower of sparks with a loud crack shattered some circuits behind him. The female bandit used this distraction to leap forward with a small, polished knife in her hand and plunged it into the conductor's chest. He gasped, his eyes wide with shock and pain, before slumping to the floor. She then turned to the control panel.
"Let's get this thing going a little faster. We'll use this as a distraction to make our getaway,"
she said. With a series of deft movements, one of the bandits ripped out the control fuses and slammed a new set of custom controls into the panel. The train was already at a high speed, but now it surged faster and more violently. The controls were now permanently locked into a full speed and continued to gain speed. The train shrieked with a high-pitched metallic howl as steel ground against steel, gathering a terrifying momentum. Elsewhere, a crew of 6 burly, heavily armed bandits was hard at work trying to pry open a colossal sealed door. One of them lit up a blowtorch, carefully slicing around the lock. Meanwhile, 5 special police officers stood guard over the ether supply containers, anxiously ducking behind cover, bracing themselves for whatever chaos was about to unfold. As the bandits finally managed to breach the door, a gigantic officer with a cannon for an arm unleashed a barrage of ether-infused rounds. The bandits scattered in all directions, with one receiving a glancing blow that ripped through his armor and sent him spinning. Another officer, equipped with 3 sleek mechanical arms, unleashed a rain of grappling hooks that pinned 2 of the bandits firmly against the wall. But the bandits were prepared. A big barrel-chested bandit with a prosthetic eye let out a war cry and charged forward, swinging a heavy, electrified axe. He met the massive officer head-on, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks and a deafening clang. His axe was quick, finding a weakness in the officer's arm cannon, and with a crunch, he severed the limb before slamming the axe in the officer's chest. The other bandits freed themselves and joined the fray. One police officer was decapitated by a bandit with a serrated blade. Another was shot through the chest, his body slumping to the ground. The final two officers, a woman with a metallic whip and a man with 2 revolvers, fought a desperate, valiant last stand. They were overwhelmed. The woman was shot through the stomach, her body convulsing before falling silent. The man screamed with a final burst of defiance and was shot in the head, with his body crumpling to the floor. The bandits ripped open the next reinforced door with mechanical tools. Inside were dozens of glowing, humming canisters of liquid ether stacked high. Their faces, though masked, were filled with triumphant greed. They quickly loaded the canisters onto their back and climbed onto the roof. There were several crude, ether-powered flying contraptions waiting. With their loot secured, they began to make their retreat. The sheriff stood with her mechanical hand still clamped onto Dante's cuffed arm, her orange eyes fixed on his bewildered face.
I didn't do anything. Why are these cuffs on me?
Dante said, a defiant edge to his voice. His expensive jewelry, glinting even through a layer of grime, seemed to mock his words.
This is a misunderstanding. I am Prince Dante of Thesian.
The sheriff's fist clenched.
The prince of what exactly? I stumbled upon you in the cargo storage, surrounded by other people's personal items. You just happened to be with one of these crooks. Your outfit is quite peculiar, and that flashy jewelry doesn't look like it's yours. My hunch? You've been sifting through other people's things, snatching what you fancy, and somehow ended up with one of these thugs, or maybe you're in cahoots with them. Either way, that could land you with a serious theft charge.
I was transported here.
Dante said, glancing around the metallic room with a hint of disgust.
By a portal. I'm not a thief.
A portal?
The sheriff repeated flatly, her gaze unwavering.
Right. That's a new one. Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in?
Trouble? Pfft.
Dante scoffed.
You are the one in trouble. You've detained a royal. You should be happy I don't press this any further.
A hint of a smirk touched the sheriff's lips.
Lucky me, then. Just be glad I'm the one who found you.
She gestured to the fabric of his tunic.
What do you call this? It feels like silk, but there is no way you could afford this. And those rings on your fingers, I had never seen anything like them before. Who are you? Who are you really working for?
I have told you,
Dante said, growing impatient. He lifted his hand slightly, the rings catching the light.
I am Prince Dante of Thesian. I am not working for anyone. This attire and these symbols are a testament to my lineage.
Before she could speak, the heavy metal door burst open. 2 figures, just as roughly clad as the bandit the sheriff shot, shoved their way into the cargo bay. They carried the same strange, loud weapons and clothing.
Look what we found. The sheriff herself. Thought you could cut the strings on us,
snarled the gaunt man with a jagged scar across his cheek. The other, a brutish figure wielding a heavy-duty wrench like a club, echoed the sentiment with a guttural roar.
Thought you could play the big hero and leave your kin to rot?
Down!
The sheriff yelled, pushing Dante hard. The force sent him sprawling behind cargo containers. The bandits immediately opened fire upon both of them, just barely missing Dante. Dante seized the opportunity and sprang to his feet, making a beeline for the door at the far end of the room. Although his hands were shackled, he managed to navigate with a bit of effort. The bandits noticed his sudden dash before they swiftly redirected their weapons and opened fire. The sheriff popped out from behind her cover. She downed one bandit with a precise shot from her long-barreled revolver. Simultaneously, she fired several bullets. The projectiles streaked through the air, hitting the bullets aimed at Dante spot on. There were metallic pings as the bullets collided. The deflection gave Dante the fraction of a second he needed. He burst through the door and stumbled into the next room.
Seriously?
She muttered, pinching the bridge of her nose with her mechanical thumb and forefinger before ducking back behind cover. The room was a dining car in disarray. 3 bandits held their weapons on the terrified passengers. When Dante burst in, everyone froze. The passengers stared at him with a mix of fear and confusion. The bandits looked at him with surprise. Dante was unlike anything they had ever seen. He had no mechanical augmentations, his clothes were strange, and he seemed to have appeared from nowhere. To Dante, the scene was equally bizarre. It was a brightly lit, polished space, lined with rows of seats occupied by bewildered and terrified passengers. Their clothing was utterly foreign to him, stiff, multi-layered fabrics of strange textures, polished metals adorning their attire, and odd, rigid hats. Some of the people he saw had skin like polished brass, with their faces composed of intricate plates. Their movements were precise and almost mechanical, entirely devoid of human softness. Their eyes glowed with an internal light, staring blankly at Dante. Others possessed additional limbs, gleaming metallic arms emerging from their backs, whirring with hidden mechanisms, or legs that moved with an unnatural stiffness. These were the metal people, as he instinctively thought of them, their bodies often a complex blend of flesh and intricate, segmented steel, adorned with strange, glowing attachments. Dante's sheltered life gave him no context for such sights. He could only gape, his panic momentarily overridden by sheer bewilderment at these strange, augmented beings. After a moment of shocked silence, one of the bandits recovered his composure. He pointed his gun at Dante. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," he said, smirking at his friends. He then raised his voice. "Get on the ground and empty your pockets, slowly." Dante tried to call on his magic, yelling for a fireball in his mind, but nothing happened. His hands remained cold and powerless. The bandit grew impatient. "I said now, you useless brat!" he bellowed. He fired, and a searing pain exploded in Dante's shoulder. Blood trickled down his arm, and Dante realized how dangerous these weapons were. He winced as he slowly got on the ground, with a scowl, holding his arm. The bandit walked over and stomped on Dante's head. "I said empty your pockets, dumbass!" he roared, stomping a couple more times. "We're not playing games here." Dante gritted his teeth and grunted in pain. The other 2 bandits watched, laughing and making jokes. "Leave some for me, Goran," one of them yelled. "Looks like a rich one. Probably got a fat wallet." The bandit's words oozed sarcasm. "Yeah, Goran, don't break the loot before we get it," the other added, grinning.
If you were a bug, I'd crush you.
Dante spat, glaring up at the bandit who was now digging in his pockets. The bandit, Goran, smiled, amused by Dante's defiance. "A bug? You're less than a bug, boy." He grabbed Dante's hair and then smashed his head against the ground. "You're a stain." Dante's lip and nose bled. He glared up, grabbing the bandit's hand, and tried to rip it away. A surge of chaotic power rippled through Dante's body. Goran screamed. The other 2 bandits stopped laughing, their expressions turning to confusion. "What's wrong, Goran?" one of them asked, his voice losing its playful edge. "You good?" The bandit standing over Dante stood up, backing away, and then, with a strange, squirming effect, turned into a writhing mass of worms, beetles, and maggots. The other bandits stared, their guns lowering slightly, their confident sneers replaced with gaping shock. The door behind Dante was slid open with a bang. The sheriff stood there, her eyes narrowed in a dangerous glare.
Trying to run on me, huh?
She said. The remaining bandits immediately reacted to the sight of her. Dante scrambled to his feet, darting through the bewildered passengers and bandits. A bandit pulled the trigger, firing multiple shots at the sheriff, but she stood her ground without so much as a blink. In an instant, her right hand shot forward with lightning speed, raising one of her sleek, long-barreled revolvers. Then, with the sharpness of a snap, she pulled the trigger repeatedly. The bullets from the bandit's gun shattered into nothingness, leaving only delicate clouds of dust to swirl in the air.
You really don't make this easy.
The sheriff muttered, her mechanical hand extended forward. A sharp thwip sounded as a metallic cable shot out from her wrist, the hand outstretched, waiting to grab. It grabbed onto a decorative railing near Dante, and with a whine of ether-powered gears, it reeled her forward, closing the distance between them at an alarming rate. The two bandits continued to fire at the sheriff, and she spun while being pulled in the air, firing more shots. Her accuracy was dead on, managing to get a bullseye shot on one bandit and shooting the other 3 times in the chest. At this point, she was almost atop Dante. She reached out her hand, almost grabbing him. Dante's panic grew as he tried to pull away from her hand, rapidly closing the gap. His magic responded to his terror. A burst of shimmering, harmless frost exploded around him, coating the floor in a thin, treacherous layer of ice. Passengers screamed as their elaborate footwear skidded. The sheriff slid for a moment, forcing her to disengage and re-establish her footing, giving Dante a precious few seconds.
Are you trying to get everyone killed?
She yelled, her voice laced with incredulity, as she regained her balance. She tapped the sides of her magnetic boots, engaging with a soft thrum. Dante scrambled, slipping on the slick floor, then righting himself. He lunged into the next carriage, which appeared to be another dining car. A single bandit stood with his weapon to his side as he stood by a table, eating the fancy chocolate desserts on display. He looked at Dante with confusion before drawing his weapon, shouting something with food in his mouth. "Mumfin's supposed to be here," the bandit said as he refused to spit out the food. He grabbed his gun and fired rapidly. A shot dug into Dante's leg, dropping him to his knees. He skidded to the side, hiding behind a row of seats, as the bandit continued to shoot and shove more desserts into his mouth. An intense anger grew in Dante as he stared at the fat bandit with chocolate practically drooling out of his mouth. He was tired of feeling helpless, and all these bandits were starting to piss him off. Dante felt a pulse release from his hand and saw a gush of dark, slick mud erupt from Dante, splattering over to the bandit. The mud piled high on the man and seemed endless. The mud clung, thickened, hardened, and transformed. The man's frantic yells were abruptly choked off as his body swelled, solidified, becoming rough and solid. Within seconds, a grotesque, mud-caked statue of a terrified man stood petrified with his final scream etched onto his face. Nisa made it into the next room and stared at the mess before her.
All right. You're coming with me. We're going to figure out just who and what you are.
She snapped, reaching for him again. Dante was startled by her sudden arrival and tried to pull away, to simply escape her. A gust of impossibly strong wind erupted around him, buffeting the sheriff back, throwing her off balance for a crucial second.
Ugh!
Nisa grunted, stumbling back, her cloak flapping wildly around her. Dante felt that power came from inside him, but unsure how he did it. Not wanting to ponder on it more, he scrambled to his feet and kept running. His pace was now significantly slow, with an injured leg now. He burst through a narrow, heavy metal door at the far end of the room, plunging into the next carriage.
Stop right there!
Nisa's voice echoed from behind him as her boots thudded on the metal floor. A massive bandit with a mask came from the next room ahead and was carrying a large weapon on his back. He was several feet from Dante and looked at him in confusion before locking eyes with the sheriff. His face immediately got serious as he dropped to one knee while pulling the RPG off his back. He aimed both Dante and the sheriff. Dante jumped to the side as he saw the weapon, and the sheriff kept running. Dante outstretched his arm, trying to focus on a lightning spell, but the sheriff was faster. A stretchy rope shot from her wrist, wrapping around Dante and pulling him back. She shot at the bandit with the large RPG, knocking him on his back. Then she fired a canister at Dante, covering his body in a sticky foam that immediately hardened, immobilizing him. He fought to free himself, but it was fruitless. The sheriff made her way toward the fallen bandit. Dante looked over and saw the bandit's face contorted in a grin. The angle of his body allowed him to see the smile under the bandit's mask, something the sheriff couldn't see from her position. Dante managed to free his arm from the foam. He shot it forward toward the bandit, still trying to cast a lightning spell. But his mind was still thinking of the stickiness of the foam. The bandit saw his chance and rose with the weapon, aimed at the sheriff. Before she could react, he fired. Instead of a rocket, a green bubble shot out of the barrel. The sheriff and the bandit looked at each other, then at Dante. Before the sheriff could say a word, the bubble popped, causing a massive explosion that looked like green bubblegum had burst everywhere, covering the entire car in a sticky mess.
What did you do?
The sheriff demanded, her voice strained.
What were you thinking?
Dante was still struggling, but managed to turn his head to look at her.
I was trying to do lightning.
He insisted, his voice panicked. The sheriff scoffed.
How do you do lightning with your thoughts? What do you think you are? A technomancer?
Well,
Dante began, and then a word, taught to him by his grandfather, slipped out.
you also have to say the word begreura.
The moment he spoke it, a crackle of raw energy pulsed from his outstretched hand. A bolt of pure lightning shot across the room. It hit the bandit's ether-powered RPG, which was also coated in the sticky goo. The lightning bolt caused a catastrophic overload that made the gun detonate instantly. A second explosion, this time a concussive blast of fire and shrapnel, ripped through the dining car. The fiery force tore a massive hole in the side of the train, ripping metal and glass away like paper. The bandit was instantly blown away in chunks and sucked out through the gaping hole. A violent gust of wind howled through the new opening, sucking debris out into the rushing air. The entire train shuddered, metal screaming, and a piercing, high-pitched alarm began to blare. Thick, acrid smoke poured from ruptured conduits, mixing with the dust of the explosion. The sheriff stared at the gaping hole in the wall. The air thrummed with howling winds. This was bad. Something critical might have been destroyed.
I think we might be fucked,
She yelled, her voice hoarse. Dante was relieved that some of the sticky foam clung to him. Otherwise, he'd be battling for survival. The gap grew larger with each piece of metal and debris that was pulled into the hole. The sheriff gazed at Dante in speechless disbelief. He was like a walking disaster, a human embodiment of chaos. The train jolted and swayed dangerously, speeding towards an inevitable catastrophe. It wailed like a wild monster, rushing headlong into the unknown, with its fate and the fate of everyone on board, teetering precariously on the brink of mechanical failure.